Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Torch Tales, Stories Behind the Hood. I'm your host, Frank Vargas, aka Traveling Frankie. You guys know how this works. I sit here, somebody sits there, we happen to have a conversation, and I just post them somewhere, which happens to be YouTube, and then you guys can decide whether you guys want to watch it or not. See, that was easy. Here I am in South Florida, Miami to be exact, or Doral. For those of us that are from down here, it's all Miami. We just call this everything the same thing. So I'm lucky enough to have Athena Alexander with Miller ITW, and we'll touch on all of that, but you guys know how this works. We'll see who she is, why she picked the welding industry, why she's still here, and what she does for Miller ITW. Thank you, Athena, for this is when you. Oh. Yeah, it's all good. I didn't prep you, so that happens all the time, actually, guys. It's very organic. Now, before we go into who are you, where you come from, which I already asked you a few questions before we started. Why are you here now in Miami, in South Florida?
Yeah, I am here to represent Miller at the AWS Instructors Institute.
Okay, and you've done this before?
I have. This is my third year now.
All right, so you're an expert. Now, you were telling me that you were actually born in not South Florida, Boca.
Yes.
That is still considered South Florida. She's kind of from here, but not really. Born in Boca, and why? Why were you born here?
So my mother is from the Philippines,
okay.
And so my dad went over to the Philippines. They got married there. They came over here to the States, and so my dad had got a job down here in Florida.
Okay.
And we always joked around that in order to get my mom to stay here, he had to put her in an area that was more similar to home.
At least that first stage, right? Like, there's going to be some palms and water and stuff like that, right?
Right.
They come here, but they didn't stay here long.
No. So right after I was born, essentially, they moved back to Athens, Alabama, which is where my dad's from. And that's actually how I got my name. So my name is Athena, after the goddess of Athens, or the Athenians.
There you
and
go.
So since I was born in Florida, they named me Athena after his hometown.
Wow. Look at that, right? The stuff that we're already learning. So I love how your dad just used that hook. Yeah, we're going to come and something similar, something that you're going to feel like home, right? And within a year, like, we're out.
Yes.
Were you just kind of actually raised in the same area, or you also moved around Georgia?
So Alabama.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Correct. Thank you.
From, I say, kindergarten all the way until I graduated, I grew up in Athens, Alabama.
Okay.
And I ended up, spending my college years, adult years, in what's referred to as the Tri-Cities in Alabama, which is your Florence, Muscle Shoals, Tuscumbia area.
Okay.
So
spell that fast, yeah. Yeah.
So I have moved around as an adult when I got to college. Pretty much every year, when you're renting, you're moving around all the time.
Of course. Now, growing up as a little girl, what were you into?
Mainly sports.
Okay. What kind of sports?
I played basketball and volleyball, and I actually played baseball.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Now we're talking my language. Yeah. Really?
So I'm the only daughter out of 5.
All right. Definitely there was sports in that house,
yes.
Right? And you just wanted to be, are you youngest, oldest?
I'm next to the youngest.
Okay, so definitely you wanted to keep up with the brothers,
yes.
I'm assuming, right?
Yes, and so my dad was our coach. So in order for him to be able to make all of our games, we had to all play on the same team.
Okay.
So I then played baseball in that case.
So what age group were you playing baseball? And all the other sports?
Up until 7th grade.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, what was the sport that you were the best at?
I would like to say volleyball, because that's what I ended up going to college and playing.
At that time, you're thinking sports is going to be a way out? Is that the future? Or are you thinking there's something here I'm good enough to?
Not necessarily, because
okay.
I'm pretty short. But I can jump really high.
Yeah.
That's
what I used to say.
I really never thought of having a career, let's say, or going pro or anything like that. Sports. However, I did think maybe like sports medicine or something like that would be something I would be interested in.
Gotcha. Did you ever play it for somebody else other than your dad?
Yes.
After in college, I'm assuming, of course, but
yes.
Before that?
In high school, I did.
Yeah. How was your dad as a coach? Because I coach my kids, and I have a version, and they say completely something else than what I think how it was, but whatever.
Well, as a child and having your dad as a coach, I feel like my dad was always harder on me. So I had more pressure, at least I felt that way at least.
Yeah.
So then I get into having other coaches. And now my dad was a terrible person to have on the sidelines as well. He got thrown out of multiple games. But it was nice to not have that, like that pressure with that coach.
It's just passion, guys. It's passion. That's what that is, all right? So chill, relax. So you get into college, you're still playing sports. And at that moment, you are thinking still sports medicine or something, or you now are starting to think maybe there's something else I can start focusing on.
Well, in real life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Okay, so
Welcome
even
to
coming
the club. Yeah.
right, coming out of high school, I really didn't care to go to college.
Yeah.
If had it not been the volleyball scholarship, I don't know that I would have necessarily went.
Okay.
Nobody in my family had went to college, so I was the first one to go.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, even to this day, I'm still the only one to go. So
Wow.
my younger brother also did not go to college.
Wow.
And
So you can now just tell them that all the time. Just mess with them. Yeah.
And I have the most blue collar job out of all of them. So.
Go figure, right?
Right.
But how did you first, before and I'm going to go up and down,
Yeah.
there's no rhythm here. How did you actually get into welding?
Okay, I started welding in high school.
They had a program?
They had a tech program or a tech center that you could go to separately from your school.
Was that an elective? Or
I guess it would be considered like an elective, yeah.
So here you are, a girl playing sports, and you go, sure, I'm going to go fire some things up. I'll try welding. Like what happened?
I actually knew nothing about welding. My dad did have like a old tombstone welder, but
Okay.
I had never used it before. I
Okay.
didn't know anybody who welded for a living. The only thing that got me into welding was I was cutting grass at the time. Like that was my job.
Okay.
So the
You
guy
job at the house?
just
or-
no, like my friend had a business
Oh.
on landscaping.
Gotcha.
And I was his employee.
So we needed labor. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Got it.
So he was taking welding, and I actually was going to take something else.
Okay.
And he was like, why don't you just go ahead and take welding too, so we can both just leave right after school and go do this. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that.
When you first got, if you remember, when you first got into it and you first saw what welding was, at least, 10 years ago, 12, 14 years ago, did you get into it right away? It's like, I like this. Or because you had somebody there, a friend, you kind of like, I'll ride this way for a little bit longer and see what happens.
I would say I found it very interesting, and I was like naturally good at it, I would say. Like it didn't take me long to pick it up and understand it.
Gotcha.
But I never thought of it as a career.
Okay.
I just thought it was fun.
Got it. What processes were you practicing in the beginning? Like, what was it that they were teaching?
Okay, lots of stick welding and plasma cutting.
Okay.
So I was really good with the plasma cutter. I used
Yeah.
to cut stuff out for people. And
What is it with women and plasma cutting? Like, you guys run circles around most guys in the beginning. Like, kudos. I guess it's the attention to detail. This is just me
Right, that's
making
what I
things
say.
up, right? And so now you are high school finishes, and are you still living at home?
After I graduated, I moved off to college.
Okay.
And so when I was in college, I lived in a dorm room.
Gotcha.
Since I was playing sports.
And so you did welding in high school. Now you're in college playing sports. Still not thinking welding anything yet.
Nope, no welding.
All right. When does that spark comes back again?
So at the college I was going to, I played my first freshman year for volleyball, and the following year they had announced that they were shutting down the athletic program at the school I was at.
Gotcha.
However, they would honor our scholarship.
Oh, okay.
So at this point I knew I was going to have free school. And
How many of us can say that?
Right.
Yeah.
So the welding instructor at that school knew my high school welding instructor.
Okay.
And I still kept in touch with my high school welding instructor. He's still a really good friend of mine. I texted him this week actually, telling
Really?
him like someone I knew in this class was from the hometown we're from.
Gotcha.
And so with that, he came to one of my volleyball games, the
Okay.
instructor there. And he was like, hey, we have open spots in welding if you ever are interested in getting back into welding. And he kind of gave me his little pitch like,
Of course.
hey, we don't have any other women in the program. It's a great opportunity.
The pitch that till this day works a lot.
Right.
Right?
Yes. And so at this moment in time, I was like, why not? It's free school. I'm not paying for it,
Yeah.
so I'll give it a shot. So literally the following week, I changed my major to welding at that point.
Wow. Now you are thinking definitely, well, now I'm thinking career because of all the other things somehow went through the cracks, right? And what was it that you thought that you could do or that you were going to do in the welding industry to make a career out of it at that moment? Or you just like, I'm going to see where it leads?
At that point, I think I just want to say, hey, we'll see what happens.
Got
Again,
it.
I was not, I was very ambitious, but I didn't know with what. I needed something given to me, I guess maybe, or some
Gotcha.
ideas that I didn't know. I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
But at this time, I didn't tell my parents I changed my major.
Oh, whoa. So you are welding in school already. They don't know that you are welding. In
Correct.
their mind, they still think you're playing sports. So they didn't know that
Well, they knew that the athletic program was closing down.
Okay.
But they really wanted me to be in the medical field.
Got it.
Whatever it was, that's that Asian background.
I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you did. I'm like, I think that's a Philippine thing because, yeah, I get it.
Yes,
I get
like,
it.
All my family are doctors or nurses or something.
Yep. I thank you for sharing that because that's where I was going to go. So now you are doing this and you are really getting good at it and you realize that, hey, you know, there's something here. Somehow I connected with this. Somehow I think I'm good. And based on what you saw others or people telling you that you are. So college ends. Now what?
Well, actually, in college, my first semester, I got my first welding job.
You know, some people, yeah. All right, where and doing what?
So the whole story behind this is actually really funny because in college, our instructor came to the class and was like, hey, this furniture company is looking to hire some welders.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to apply because I'm like, I'm in my first semester.
Right, what do I
don't
know?
really know what I'm doing. I'd never MIG welded before. At
Oh.
this point, I've only stick welded.
Gotcha.
And my instructor was like, just why not? The worst they can do is tell you no. You
Yeah.
get experience with interviews and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. So me and two other guys in my class applied for this job. We all got phone calls to come in for an interview and do a weld test.
Okay. A MIG?
A MIG weld test.
Okay.
Yes. And it was, so furniture is really thin material, right?
Well, first of all, yes, but...
Right, like
No.
these chairs we're sitting in, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I go in for my weld test, I blow holes in like everything. So I'm like, instantly
That's the future right there.
I'm not getting this job.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a couple days go by, I get a phone call from this company offering me a position. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, so I accept the job.
Did the other guys get the job?
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
Of
tell
course.
me.
I text them, right? I'm like, did y'all get a call back? And all of them were like, no. I was like, oh, well, I did.
Oops. Yeah.
And so then our instructor proceeded to tell the class, never have a female come into a job opportunity with you because she will get the job and you will not. So I got that job and I asked the HR person who hired me, I was like,
Why?
Why? Because I blew holes in
Yeah.
everything. And now I don't know what their projects look
Correct,
like.
yeah.
But she said I gave her the firmest handshake out of all of them. And she said she knew at that point
You
that
know,
I would be good.
It's the little things that sometimes you take for granted. And I'm going to back that up with when you came in earlier, I did notice that you had a nice firm handshake. Now, you never know, like for us guys, how to shake
Right.
a girl's hand because you don't know where it's going to go. I'm like, so we even go softer so yours, I can see that. Is that something that was just you or you learned, or because I've told my kids in the past,
Right.
it's like, hey, nice firm handshake. You look at people in the eye. So is that something that you knew or just?
No, that's something my dad taught me too.
Really?
Like always good firm handshake. You know, that's that eye contact and your handshake means something. It's an agreement. And you got to stand behind that. So yeah, that was instilled in me very young.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Here you are at the furniture place, just blowing holes everywhere, right? How long were you there?
I was there a little over a year. So at this time, I'm working and going to school.
Correct. Now, was that like the last 2 years of college, the last year, or so?
This would have been freshman, my sophomore year and junior year.
Okay.
Both of them.
Only a year or so Why? You got so good that you got something else, or what happened next?
Yes, essentially a rail car manufacturing company opened up in our area.
Okay.
And it was going to essentially hire thousands of people in the area.
And you had no guy friends that wanted to go with you and interview for this other job, right?
Actually, the guy I was dating at the time was already working there.
Okay.
Okay, so he told me I should apply. However, by the time he told
Then
me
he
I
got
should
fired.
apply, no. But I had already applied before he told me I should apply, and so I was like, "Well, I already applied."
Yeah,
so.
yeah, you're too slow, dude. What did you start doing there?
So I started as a production welder there.
Okay.
I was the 49th employee hired there. And I
Okay.
say that because when I left, there was over 1,000 employees
Really,
there.
that's how big it got?
Yes.
Now, what kind of stuff were they actually doing?
So as a rail car, like building trains.
Oh, really?
From the ground up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the whole cart, the
Yes.
whole thing, the whole frames, everything else. That's a pretty good start with a heavy equipment, you know, I
Yes.
guess, in the industry. Now, at this time, you only have high school and the 2-3 years of welding college, right? And plus some hands-on on the field.
Right.
How long were you making trains?
I did that for 7 years.
And what process were you doing there?
Predominantly, we actually use metal core
Okay.
and flux core.
Gotcha. Now, at this time, you thought you were really good at which specific process, even though you had now done a little bit of stick, you know, MIG, and now, so which one is the one that you go, I'm doing this because they're paying me, but I know that I'm really good at this other thing?
I'm really good at flux core. I'm very confident with flux
Hey.
core. Out of position, I can make the slag fall off.
Confidence, right? That's all I got to say.
Right.
Good for
But
you.
I'm a terrible TIG welder.
Really? You know, and yeah, I'm a terrible at all of the processes, so whatever. How long were you there?
So I worked there for 6 years.
Okay.
And while I was there, they sent me to get my CWI, my
Oh,
CWE,
so that's where you got
my
it?
CWS, yes.
Got it.
So I ended up going to the Hobart Institute in
Okay.
Troy, Ohio, and did their 2-week program and got my certifications there.
Gotcha. Was that hard for you? Or that because you had done 5-6 years of somewhat industry, was that easier?
I would never say that that's easy for anybody because of the circumstances.
But for me, come on, you can say it.
No, I honestly, I went in assuming I would fail because most people fail their first time.
Correct. You keep hearing this all the time. Like,
Yes.
oh my God, that's it. It's 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah, like everyone had horror stories about it. And at this time, I didn't know anyone who really was a CWI. So
Okay.
everyone just assumes the worst.
Correct.
But they've never actually experienced it.
Gotcha.
But so when I went to Ohio, again, I just went in very carefree because I was like, oh, everybody fails their first time.
Yeah,
I'll
this is
fail
the
it,
learning
I'll-
experience,
you know, yeah. And so I think that was the best thing that could ever happen to me because I wasn't stressed out and I wasn't overthinking anything. I just, whatever they told me, I was like, okay. I wrote it down. And I didn't say, well, that's weird because in real life,
Right.
you would do this. So I just completely blocked that out and really just absorbed what they told me. It's a really good 2-week program. And I say I highly recommend it. They really teach you how to pass that test. So me and my husband both went through that program and both passed our first try.
So is your husband a welder?
He is a welding engineer for the company he works for now.
Okay, that's awesome. How did you guys meet?
Technically, we were in the same welding program, though he was
I love
older
when
than
someone
me.
says technically, like, okay, there's another side of that story. Yeah.
Well, back in my younger days, I actually didn't talk. I was very shy.
You mean you were shy?
I was
Okay.
very shy, and I'm pretty sure my welding instructor told all the guys not to talk to me because they were going to say something inappropriate. So he just told them not to talk to me. So
Okay.
that's what I think happened.
So what changed that now you talk?
Honestly, coming over to Miller really opened up my shell a lot.
Good for you.
I do a lot of public speaking
Of course.
I teach classes and I have to network a lot, and that really got me out of my shell.
Got it. No, that's awesome. Sometimes you just got to get thrown in the water and
Yeah.
sink or swim. So now you are a CWI, and you are still working for the train company.
At this time, yes.
Right. And how long did you stay there after you got your CWI?
A few months, actually.
Okay, so let me get this right. So they sent you to get your CWI. Like, great, because we want to make you better. And then a few months later, you're no longer there.
Well, the thing is that there was no necessarily pay increase or anything when I got my CWI. I mean, working in a shop, it's such a different culture, different environment.
Yep.
Was I very thankful? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at that time, I just felt like I wasn't going to be utilized like I could.
Got it.
And
now I have all this knowledge, all this experience, and yeah.
Right.
I get it. And how did you go about finding the next thing?
I really had no intention of necessarily leaving this rail car company.
Yeah.
So the day I found out I passed my CWI is the same day my dad passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So during that time, I was just kind of in a place where I was lost and I didn't know what I wanted to do again.
I get it.
And I just kind of wanted to get away. So at this point in time, one of my old managers at the railcar company was working in North Carolina.
Okay.
And he reached out to me and he was like, if you are ever interested, we would love to hire you up here. And I was like,
we who? What was that company?
So this company was called Vertex Rail, different rail car company. It was a startup company.
Gotcha.
And I was like, why not?
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody there other than him. It wasn't like we were like best friends or anything.
So you moved?
I moved to North Carolina.
So talk about you really wanted a change, huh? Like you really wanted to shake things up.
Yeah,
because
I got to
of
live
everything
on the
else
coast there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I say that was the best thing in my career, best move. That's really when I started realizing I can negotiate a lot more stuff in jobs. And really expanding my pay rate and just, I say, building that confidence within myself and knowing my worth, and that really helped me.
There's a big shift and there's a big change when it comes to, just because you've done it for so long now and you are a CWI and something happens that you needed a change mentally and all that, and I totally get it. We've all been there. But what was it that really taught you to, hey, I'm worth this, or I should be worth more? Like, what was the one thing that really taught you how to do what you just said?
Well, it's whenever, I would say a lot of it was like culture of the company. The people you're working around, if they're coming to you for your knowledge and they need you to do stuff, because in this case, I have my CWI.
Okay.
So they need my approval or my stamp and all this stuff. So then I know, like, you cannot do this without me.
Okay.
And so that really kind of built that confidence up to say,
Yeah, this has got to count for something, right?
Right.
Totally. And good for you. And it's amazing how, I think every conversation that I've had with people in the industry, how they stumble into the industry somehow, and they find all these catalysts throughout their lives that just push you to the next whatever that is, right? And here you are. Now you are with that company for how long? When you moved to North Carolina.
Yeah,
okay.
North Carolina. I was there almost a year.
Okay.
So essentially, again, a startup company, rail car,
Yeah.
very cyclical industry.
Gotcha.
And so I experienced my first layoff. I was not laid off, but I got to see a bunch of people get laid off. And that kind of scared me, right?
That always does. That always does.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to start looking for another job because I'm not from here.
I don't want to be that second wave. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not from here. I don't know, like, where else would I work here? So I started looking for other jobs, and I really wanted to move to Nashville. My brother lived in Nashville. I just love the city of Nashville. I was like, I really want to move to Nashville.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't end up working out. Never found a job there. I moved to, Atlanta, and I got into construction as a CWI.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I'm getting to inspect all these welds on these huge buildings and totally different aspect of railcar.
Of course.
So it was really fun to get to see that.
Yes.
Good exposure, good experience. Getting to see different job sites.
Yep.
And now I'm like
Got to see Atlanta traffic.
Yes, that too.
Let's call it what it is. Yeah.
Yes, and I always swore I would never live in Atlanta, and then I ended up moving there.
Well, there you go. You know, again, we all follow that paycheck at some point, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I think your slogan, if I get it right, is that trying to make a living while making an impact or something like
Yes.
that, right?
Yes.
So I love that. When I read that, I'm like, oh, I like that. You moved there. Now you're doing structural CWI things, which is completely different from a railroad, cart to a building. What was the biggest thing being a CWI between the two things?
So construction is a pretty tough industry. As a female, it was a lot more tougher than the rail car.
To break into because it's a male-oriented.
Very male-oriented, and it's just a different culture. I'm having to be outside, and unfortunately, I do not speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And that's
a lot of the workers.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So a little bit of a language barrier there,
Okay.
and so just totally different.
Got
Me
it.
reading prints now that are just totally different than rail cars.
Yeah.
So having just to understand a different world.
Gotcha.
essentially.
No, yeah, I get it. So now I guess you left Atlanta.
Well, I'm still in Atlanta today.
Okay.
Or I live just outside of Atlanta.
Got it.
But so I worked in construction just at a year. Just so happened that Miller reached out to me
How did they find you?
on LinkedIn.
Guys, the tools nowadays. I keep telling you guys. I know a dozen people that's how they get. You just use the tools that you are given. They reached out and said what?
Well, they said that they had a job opportunity that they thought I was a good fit for.
Okay.
Now, at this point in time, I'm thinking it's a scam. Okay.
Really?
Because on LinkedIn, I get a lot of weird messages.
Yeah, I'm
right?
sure. Me being one. Yeah.
Well, so I looked at it and I was like, oh no, like that can't be real.
Yeah.
So I let it sit there for a couple weeks.
Really?
Yes. And then I was just very blunt, like, is this a real offer?
Yeah.
Right? Because, there's so many spam stuff out there now. And the lady reached back out. She's like, yes, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
we really think you'd be a good fit
It was
for it.
2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I'm excited. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like, yes, I would be interested in this.
Of course.
And, throughout my entire career, I've always used Miller welding equipment. And I didn't know much about it
Yeah.
other than using it. And I've met a couple of Miller reps along the way, and always seemed like really nice people.
Okay.
And with this opportunity, and they sent me the position, which is a
Yeah.
training position. And in my previous role, so at the railcar company, I was training new hires
Okay.
before I left, and kind of doing some training, but like how to weld type training.
So did you have all of your accolades and all of your skills listed on LinkedIn?
I do.
You do. Okay.
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
Gotcha. Which is how people get to see what,
Right.
right? Just saying, right? Just pick up some of those clues. How long did that period went from you went 2 weeks without nothing, crickets, and then you finally start having those conversations? How long before you actually were now with Miller?
Well, that took a little bit longer. So the interview process at Miller is pretty long.
Okay. Intense, long, yeah.
Yeah. And now that I've been with Miller and I've sat through other people's interviews, we like to say, like, it seems like a long time, but we hire you for life.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we make the right decision. And even though during that time I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know about this place.
Yeah.
It seems like it's taken so long. But now when you look at the bigger picture, like, yeah, they
Gotcha.
want to make sure they're hiring the right person for the
Yeah,
role.
and that's actually the reputation that they do have. I think no one out there can say otherwise, because I think even when you are working for somebody else or the industry, you just know a little bit about them. That's the same thing that everyone says. So congratulations. The position they hire you for back then, almost 6 years ago now, it's the same position that you have now, even though there's a little bit more probably work related, but
Yes.
but it's the same position
Same position.
for the same area.
Yeah.
Okay, and I asked you before how much travel do you do, and you said about 60% or so.
Yes.
Gotcha. And You also said that if it was up to you, you would love to just kind of be more in a central area, like, something that is more doable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, essentially, what I like, to me,
If you had a magic wand, right? It's not up to you sometimes.
Right.
It's not up to us. We work for someone.
Right.
Yeah.
I love to travel. Okay.
Yeah.
I really do. I love getting to meet new people, experience new places. I really do love that. But the only way to get really good at something is if you focus on that one thing.
Correct.
And so even though I get to do trainings all over the place, I do cater to a sales region. I
Correct.
support a sales region.
Yeah.
And I want to better support them
course.
and them utilize me more is what I would love.
Gotcha.
To do, hopefully soon.
So what does a week look like or a month looks like in your life?
So I do either in-person trainings.
Okay.
So that could be with distributors or end users.
Okay.
And I also do virtual trainings as well. So I'll be on the computer with kind of like this setup here. And
Very high-end stuff, guys. Very high-end, yeah.
It could be from anywhere, from people from Hawaii, Canada. Every now and then, sometimes we have done some training with like Brazil and some things like that. So it could be anywhere that I train virtually.
Nice. And how much do actually training do you guys go through? Like, do you guys actually train consistently in, of course, new products, I'm sure, but do you guys also do training on stuff that just to stay fresh?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of our training, we have different classes. So one of our classes is kind of just weld process and filler metal knowledge.
Gotcha.
So these are for distributors new to the industry, typically, or new to a sales role, let's say. Maybe they were a truck driver before, moving in to inside sales or something.
Yeah.
And just giving them an understanding, hey, this is what stick welding is. This is when you would use it. This is when maybe you wouldn't want to use it. This is what 7018 means, like that kind of stuff. And we go through all 4 processes in that class and talk about the common filler metals with that. So I teach that class probably the most.
Really?
Yes, because there's a lot of new people coming to our industry.
Kind of.
Yeah. I also teach like troubleshooting classes with our equipment. So I'll go in there and mess the machine up, and they have to go out there and fix it.
Yeah, I've heard some stories about that, but yeah, that's cool. Women in the industry.
Yeah.
What's your take on women in the industry?
Well, there's more and more every day.
Correct.
And I love that social media has bridged a lot of that gap.
I think so too.
Yes, so I say online, I get to see all these other people and what they're doing.
Correct.
And then it's really cool when I do get to meet them in person.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like Fab Tech is a big place. I get to meet a lot of people in person for the first time.
Do you go to every Fab Tech show?
Of recent years, yes.
Yeah. Are you artistic? Do you actually make stuff? Do you even have the time, or do you like to make stuff?
Well, I do like to make stuff, but it's typically not welding.
Okay.
So
explain.
I'm crafty. I love to sew.
Really?
Yeah.
How old are you? Just kidding.
I do. I sew a lot, and I just like to craft, let's say.
Okay.
Like, especially when I got married, I was like,
So now your husband has a bunch of neat sweaters and stuff, and
No, not necessarily. But like signs and stuff for my wedding, that I was like, I don't want to pay someone to do that. Like, I can just do that myself. So I would make like signs or shirts or something like that for people. I just like little.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I figured that you were actually still burning a stick, or doing something with metal. But
Every
I guess
now and
the
then.
disconnect. I get sometimes we need a break from the dailies, right? And since you travel so much, have you visited all of the U.S. so far, or are you still shy a few states?
Oh, I'm still shy a few states.
Yeah.
Mainly like the central part of the country.
Me too. When
the flyover states.
people ask me, how come? Like, what do you mean, how come? Look, yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm sure it's beautiful. I've been busy. Tell me a place that you loved out of your travels because you thought that it was not going to be that cool, that great, and once you got there, it's like, wow, this is way better, and I love this place. And another place that, your opinion, that you say, it's okay, I don't, not my cup of tea. Again, it's a personal opinion, but I still want to know.
Okay. That's kind of tough. I would probably say the coolest place was going out to Oregon.
Okay.
I've never been out to that part of the country prior to this role.
I gotcha.
But getting to see like Mount Hood and things like that.
Oh, I was there like 6 years ago for an AWS thing out
yeah?
there. Just beautiful.
Okay, I did eat at the resort up there.
Oh, yeah?
Had the best Bloody Mary I've ever had in my life up there.
That's a breakfast drink, guys. Yeah, yeah. The one that you could just say that it wasn't really your cup of tea.
That's kind of tough. Maybe I recently went out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Not a whole lot going on there, but I did get to go line dancing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How was that?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's such an Oklahoma thing to do.
see, I love the sandwich. You know, it's like, you know, nice, not so nice, and then you close with a, you know, that's the approach. Good job. You know, you've done these before. What is it that you now, almost 15 years into the welding industry, what is it that you really like about the welding industry today?
I love the people in this industry.
It's hard to find someone that doesn't say the same thing. And I know. Yeah.
Yes, the people are fantastic in this industry. Everyone that at least I've encountered is always wanting to help you in some sort of way, whether it's, you know, promoting them through you or just wanting to know you for future references.
Correct.
I had a man tell me at an AWS event that you're only ever one person away from meeting everyone in this industry.
That is actually, that's actually very true.
That is true.
That is very true. And personally, what do you like to do now that we know that you like to saw and do things? But aside from that, what else you like to do on your personal time?
I actually read a lot.
Really? What
do.
kind of books?
I will read psychological thrillers. Sometimes it's motivational stuff, romance, whatever.
Really?
I'm a mood reader. But I started reading last year actually, and I never read probably a book in my life before.
So you're one of those. Are you one of those that you're at the airport and you go through the thing like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll grab that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even since I've been in Miami this week, I already went to a bookstore.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You have a really nice bookstore here. It's open till 11 p.m.
we do, and more, you can't really run into those. But so I love going into the very small towns of America and going into those bookstores because it's not even that I'm there to buy a book. I'm there just to, it's like nostalgia. It's like, it's like, wow, you don't get to see this anymore. But yeah, you always come out with a book. I'm more into the personal growth and all that. I've never been able to do fiction or romance and all that. Yeah, I haven't breaking that seal yet. Maybe I'll see. Are you a foodie?
I am.
You do?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Yeah? What's your go-to? You travel for 2 weeks. You're on the road. You go home, and what is the one thing that I need this to? Is my comfort thing.
Well, even if I went home or I was on the road, I'm going to find somewhere to get sushi at.
Yep. So that's your go-to. Is there something that you just don't like to eat?
I can't say that there is. I really love food and trying new foods, and I haven't really found anything I would say I just didn't like.
And what's your go-to adult beverage? I mean, you already mentioned Bloody Mary, but that's breakfast. That's like a liquid lunch. That doesn't count.
Espresso martini.
Really? A dessert drink? I'm just kidding. With the travel, with so much travel, and your husband, how do you guys make it work? Because for some of us that have been doing this for a long, long time, sometimes you really need someone that understands that the communication's got to be there and all these things. How do you guys make it work?
Well, so since my husband's also in the same field, right? So he already has kind of an understanding what I do day to day,
Gotcha.
which helps tremendously.
100%.
Yes. And so he travels a little bit in his job as well.
Okay.
So we have to communicate, like he'll let me know, like, hey, are you going to be home this week because they're wanting me to travel this week?
Yeah.
The only reason why we primarily do that is because we have a dog.
Oh, okay.
We do not have kids currently. But with the dog, we're just trying to make sure someone can take care of her.
Of course,
essentially. Now, whenever or if ever we are able to have kids, that I'm sure will change a lot.
Whether you like it or not, you
yes.
will. Yeah.
one of us is going to definitely have to change.
Well, only one of you can have the kid. Just
Right.
so that for that section of time, yeah, someone's going to stay home, right? Just saying. So, how's your schedule looks for the next few weeks? Because you're here for the rest of the week, I guess.
I'm here the rest of the week.
And then what happens in the next couple of weeks?
So next week I go up to Appleton, Wisconsin, our home base, and then after that I'm in Georgia for the month of August.
Oh, wow, good for you.
For the whole month of August.
Oh, look at you. Dreams do come true. Yeah. I want to ask you, for someone that's starting in the welding industry, now that you are pretty much a veteran, and now you also are a woman in the industry, and you have seen both from the railroad cars to the construction to now the support that you provide through Miller and all these different positions that you have had in the industry. I'm brand new and I just really have a passion for the industry. I want to get into welding. What would you tell me to start with?
I always recommend people going to some sort of either a technical school or some sort of educational program that offers welding.
So you're not sending them to a YouTube?
No, typically no.
Yeah.
Well, in typically speaking, I'm expecting you to have already done some YouTube research prior to really taking a deeper dive in this career.
Correct, yes.
And I do get asked this all the time, and either I say, are you willing to travel, or do you want to stay local to where you're at?
Okay, that's going to determine what kind of
Yes.
welder or welding
Right.
section you want to be on.
Because some people, if they really want to travel, if they really want to, I say, chase the paycheck,
Correct.
I'm going to recommend that they get in some sort of union.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to get free education, training, and you're going to get paid the entire time.
That's a good advice.
But you got to be willing to travel.
Good advice,
So
yeah.
a lot of people, most people tell me that they don't want to travel though.
or they love the idea of traveling until they do it.
Right.
And then they see that it's not what most people think it is.
Right.
You know, when you do so much traveling like we do, and people, oh my God, your lifestyle, like, oh my God, the glamour. I'm like, dude, do you know that I'm like out of a backpack and a plastic bag every other night? And
Yeah, no
like
routine.
It's like, it's hard. You know, this is why I don't lose weight.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, that's my excuse. So no, that's actually a very good advice to kind of see what kind of lifestyle you want under the welding industry, and then
Right.
you can kind of guide yourself to that side of it.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years? Short and long.
Okay. I hope both short and long that I am still at Miller.
Okay.
I really do love working for this company and the culture that we have. I don't necessarily see myself always in training though.
Okay.
I would eventually like to get in some sort of sales position
Oh, cool.
within Miller at some capacity. I don't know what that would be
Yeah.
yet. I would like to think I would be a good product specialist for us
Yeah.
if that works out. But I also have to keep in the back of my mind, if I have kids, what would that look like?
Correct.
So that's something that even my current boss now, I've let him know, like, hey.
Because sales also means traveling.
Right, it does.
Yeah.
So in my current position, I could probably make it where I stayed more local.
Yeah.
I'd say they would work with me on that.
Gotcha.
But it's just going to be kind of a balancing act, and I don't know what that's going to look like just yet, if
Well,
one way or the other.
If other people can do it, I'm sure you can.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
your background, your pedigree, you know, everything you know, everything you've done. It's cool to see, for many different reasons. I mean, I've been kind of stalking you for a little bit. You know, just to kind of get to see how you do what you do, and prior to this, you know, I always do a little bit of homework on the guests, just enough to get in trouble, but not enough to say that I know anything about them, this was the case. So I think I met you 2 years ago or so at AWS.
Yeah.
We had a local section meeting or something, and you were doing something on poles.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's a cool chick right there. And then seeing some of your stuff on social media, I'm like, definitely that's someone that I would love to get to meet even more.
Yeah.
So thank you again for being here on whatever this is. I still don't know what the hell this is, but I'm having fun, and I get to meet and just share people's life into maybe it'll trigger somebody else to say, I can do that too, I want to do that, and this is the whole thing about Torch Tales.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for taking your personal time. It's an honor, and I know that we'll be running into each other here and there more and more.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so thank you. See, now she knew. Yeah. Well, thank you guys very much for watching. Torch Tales here with one more guest. This is what we do. We just want to share a light on those people that have paved the way for others and continue to teach someone out there. The welding industry is an amazing industry, so I hope we get into it. And if they keep saying yes, who am I to say no? So watch you on the next one. Thank you, guys.